Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. My name is Yelena and I am from Belkasoft. Please note, a recorded version of this webinar will be available on the Belkasoft website in Webinars section, or you may also ask us to send you a link to the recording in the chat. Today I'm going to start with a brief introduction of the company and our product. Then we will discuss the plot of that case, start with the incident response part of it, followed by the digital forensics part, and I will conclude with a number of other digital forensics methods which are relevant to cases of such types, though they were not used in this particular case. So let's start with the Belkasoft company brief description. Belkasoft is a team of professionals in digital forensics, data recovery and reverse engineering. The company mostly focuses on creating technologically advanced and easy-to-use products for investigators and forensic experts. The first Belkasoft product was released in 2007. Geographically, Belkasoft is presented with several offices in the US and Europe. We mostly work with the customers in government agencies and federal departments, in police and law enforcement agencies, though we have a number of customers from the corporate world with big names. There are several thousand Belkasoft customers all over the world. On this slide, you can see some of our significant US customers. And outside the US, our customers are Air Canada, the Sussex Police, the Government of Hong Kong, and many more loyal customers. Belkasoft X is our latest product, which evolved from the older Belkasoft Evidence Center. The product allows you to investigate both mobile and computer devices. In particular, the product supports hundreds of forensically important system artifacts for Windows, macOS, iOS, and Android. Belkasoft X is a comprehensive product used for various types of investigation tasks. One can utilize it for conducting digital investigations in a criminal or civil case, incident response, low-level analysis for various types of files such as SQLite databases, registries, and so on. Search for illicit pictures and videos, data recovery, surveillance, and many other tasks where a digital device is involved, and it is needed to recover and analyze its contents. As you may know, the voting for Forensic Forecast Awards 2021 is now open, and we kindly ask you to support Belkasoft's efforts in creating and improving the Belkasoft X products by nominating us in the following categories: Digital Forensic and Incident Response Commercial Tool of the Year and Team of the Year. Great, my brief intro finishes at this point, and now let us go to the main topic. There was an interesting case which I'd like to present today. Before I start, let me make a disclaimer. Though based on a real story, the case is fictitious. Pictures for the presentation are picked up randomly, and the artifacts do not relate to the real data and prepared specifically for the presentation. So let's discuss the story behind this case. A company working in the aerospace industry, let's call them A, got in trouble. Their competitor, let's call them B, was half-year quicker to market with their new engine than it was originally expected by the company A. This allowed the competitor to win in a big government tender, which the first company, Company A, was very much hoped for. The competitive analysis made by the Company A clearly showed that problems with the new engine the competitor B had to solve typically takes much longer than it took in reality. Since two engines had many things in common, the Company A suspected that some of their know-how had been stolen. The Information Security Department of Company A, which had a small cyber incident response team, started the internal investigation. First, they made a list of employees who might have had access to corresponding documentation. Second, they started partial investigation of corresponding computers. Now you know why my presentation has this background, and we can continue with the incident investigation part. Since this was an internal, not a criminal investigation, no full disk acquisition was performed. Moreover, in a corporate environment, it could have caused the degradation of the entire department productivity and required too much storage capacity, since a regular company's computer had several terabytes hard drive. That's why they started to gather PDF files only, because PDF was the most widespread format for storing various technical decisions and specifications. With Belkasoft, it is easy to make partial acquisition of this kind. First, you deploy agents on every computer you need to acquire. There are different methods available depending on your network infrastructure. You can use WMI, which is Windows Management Instrumentations, or GPO, which is Group Policy Objects. The simplest way, though not too convenient when you have many computers, is to use so-called local deployment. With this kind of deployment, you generate agent installation files and then copy them on a thumb drive or a network share. Then you have to run the installation package on every computer of interest. In the company, they used Windows Domain, which allowed for easy deployment using GPO, Group Policy Objects. Using GPO, you do not have to work with every separate computer. You can centrally deploy a package by specifying rules and computers which will have to apply these rules. This was very handy for the company because they had multiple offices across the country, and traveling between offices with a thumb drive would be impractical. On the screen you can see a GPO deployment using Belkasoft. It is easy to use. It is as easy as to specify a target folder and click on the Generate button. But you will also have to create a GPO rule manually. Such rules creation is beyond today's presentation, but here is the link to the Microsoft manual on GPO, which may help. Once agents are deployed, they become visible on your server-side software. I'm using our Belkasoft Evidence Center to show what it may look like. In the screenshot, I can see an endpoint called Orlando with the IP address, you can see it on the screen, which is now accessible for remote acquisition. When I double-click on it, Belkasoft asks me what to acquire from that endpoint. There are a number of acquisition types available. You can acquire an entire hard or removable drive and can opt for physical or logical drive acquisition. To remind, the company's incident response team decided not to do that because of big hard drives capacity and too much time required for that. In Belkasoft, there is also an option to acquire live memory, which makes sense when you are working with drive encrypted with BitLocker or similar encryption types. In our case, since the focus was on a document potentially stolen months ago, it didn't make sense to acquire memory. An interesting feature of the Belkasoft product is mobile device acquisition. You can acquire iPhones and Androids remotely with very little help from the remote side. Again, this type of acquisition was not used. Here we specify PDF only, but depending on your needs, you can also gather email, chats, documents of other types, browsing history, and even system files. For example, using Tor browser on an office computer could be a very suspicious thing to find. At some point, the huge set of files from various computers of interest was combined on an investigative machine. The next step planned was to make a search against a keyword file. The file contained words and part numbers specific to the engine research project being developed by the company. The words to look for included propulsion, thrust, compressor, and others, and various abbreviations and numbers used internally. The next natural obstacle showed up quickly. The search for these words gave a very small number of results. When figuring out why, it appeared that a big share of documents originated from a scanning device, though the scanner was producing PDFs and every PDF contained a scanned image. Now let's switch to the Belka X interface and have a look at an example of such PDF documents. So I click to the Artifacts section. There I've already had a node documents. Please note that right now I'm in overview mode, so I can see the data acquired from multiple data sources in one place. So that to see all the data acquired specifically for this demo stored in the Documents node, I will use filters. When all required filters are applied, we can see only the data relevant for our case. And now I'm opening one of the PDF files, and we can see that there is no possibility to copy text from this file. It's a scanned image. So, as you may see, Belkasoft X allows to separate embedded pictures originating from documents, run optical character recognition. There are 50 languages supported, by the way, and found text becomes indexed and thus searchable. So we move from the Documents node to a Picture node. The data source filter for our case remains the same. Here you can also create a filter by file origin properties. There are several options which you can select, including carved, chats, documents, mail attachments, and pictures from files. For pictures from documents, you can tick documents origin type, and all other types of pictures will be filtered out. The same for pictures from email attachments and chats. Let's switch to the table view so that we can see some additional information relevant to every file in the folder. Let's analyze the checked image file and detect text in it. Now I switch back to the other initial view, and in the section below we can see the detected text ready for the further examination. Here it is. What's more, Belka X allows you to search by words or phrases. For example, we can try to search the Spanish word descarga in the scanned document we reviewed previously. We can see the results of the search in the window. So, back to our case, the subsequent search gave the company a much broader result. In the found set of documents, they were able to locate a number of documents which leakage might have helped the competitor to significantly speed up their research. So, what can they do with this information? First of all, we can trace these documents back to computers where they were found. That's easy. In the Belkasoft interface, you can see the origin path for every artifact. And since you know which image was taken from which computer, you can create a list of computers with files of interest. So let's have a look into Belka X. In the Properties section on the right, we can see an origin section for our PDF file under examination. There is an origin path. We can also see a data source path. The other useful section in Properties is Parent Item Property File. More file properties are available there, like path, offset, file size, various timestamps, etc. All of this info will help you to create a list of computers with files of interest. Now let's acquire system files from a much smaller set of computers and try to answer a couple of simple questions. For that, we are now acquiring registry files for all users and some other useful system files. Alternatively, if the number of computers is not too big, you can run Belkasoft's incident investigation module right on every computer or their images. In this particular case, the company was able to locate the fact that one of the documents was opened from a thumb drive. That's already suspicious, since it's not supposed that this kind of document is copied. This fact was detected by investigating jump lists. Every time a file is opened using a Windows default app, the corresponding entry is created in a jump list. Jump lists make it possible to get quick access to the most recent files opened by this or that app featured by the Start menu on or taskbar. Now let's get back to Belka X, switch to Structure View and find the jump lists folder in the System Files node. Okay. And here we can see Microsoft Word subfolder. Let's review it. The first file with the suspicious name is our target. Let's check what kind of info we can squeeze out of its properties. There is a file name, NetBIOS name of the computer on which the file is stored, timestamps like most recent, runtime, volume serial number, and many more. And the properties section is quite rich for the information like this. I'm checking the next file and we can see more useful info in the properties section for this file, like drive label, which means that the file was stored on the external device drive. One particularly useful jump list entry feature is date and time of the record. Using this information, the company's specialist tried to figure out who was logged in by that time. To do so, you can use system event logs found by Belkasoft to locate the security ID and then built-in registry viewer to learn a human-readable name of the user behind this SID. So in Belka X, we open system event log and apply filters. This time we will use the event log category filter and we select here system logon and logout option. Now we can see all the data available for logon and logout. We are instructing Belka X to arrange the data by date and time. And let's review the results of our actions. The first three strings contain the data of the latest events. According to the data in the security ID column, we can see that the last three events were performed by one and the same security ID. But if we have a look at the data in the next strings, we will see that there was some other SID. For now, we don't understand who is our bad actor. I'm zooming in the same parts of the table, and we can see the whole data in SID column. Let's remember this number 1000. I'm switching to the registry viewer, and now I'm searching for the profile list folder in Windows NT current and then current version subfolders. Here we can see the already known SIDs S1518 and its a system profile. Let's have a look at the second SID, and it seems like it is suspicious. I'm switching to the artifacts section and checking the username and security ID list subfolder. And that's the list of usernames of actors that possibly connect some external drive to the computer. What surprised the examiner is that the currently logged user was not from the domain. It was a local user. This is a definite sign to start using Belkasoft's incident investigation module, because the appearance of a local user smells like a hack, at least for the company like Company A. Using the file system window, the team found out that the local user had been created recently and looked like it had been used to copy the technical document to the thumb drive. The team used other functions of Belkasoft's incident investigation to check if there is malicious code running, and indeed found a couple of new services, autorun and similar things. The malware was still persisting in memory, what was detected by dumping it with the help of the free Belkasoft Live RAM Capture tool and investigating processes in the file system window. The big question was how malware penetrated the computer, given that the computer was not connected to the internet. Using the Belkasoft X timeline, they investigated activity around plugging in the thumb drive more closely. They detected attempts to open links in a browser by an IP address. Given that the computer didn't have an internet connection, these attempts failed. So it looked like it was the particular thumb drive which was weaponized. To make a long story short, here is the logic of the malware which was on the thumb drive. The weaponized drive infected the system, collected documents of interest, and tried to send over the internet. Looks like in case of a failure, it was designed to copy these documents onto the same thumb drive. Then, if plugged in a connected computer, it repeats an attempt to send collected documents to the external IP address. At this moment, it was not quite clear if this thumb drive was intentionally plugged in by a rogue poor employee, or they were socially engineered to use this thumb drive that was either presented to them or found somewhere by them. The fact that the document was opened from a thumb drive gave a hint about the former, though it was not enough for a definite conclusion. At this moment, the company created a full image of the employee's computer and started an in-depth investigation. They configured Belkasoft X for full analysis, including all available media analysis options. It was a great surprise to find something they never expected to find. The drive contained lots of child abuse material. At this point, the internal corporate investigation turned out to be a criminal investigation. Under the law of the country where the company A was located, it was legal to use such findings to initiate a criminal case, even though they were found occasionally. Now, let me make one step back. In Belkasoft, when you are scheduling a data source analysis, you can find media analysis options. Particularly, you can detect pornography, faces, skin, guns, and texts. These detections work based on artificial neural networks and thus quite quick and robust. The product conveniently shows the results under Pictures node on the Artifacts window. I switch back to Belka X and we can see the Pictures node. Let's expand the list of available options, and here we can see that Belka X can detect faces, guns, pornography, skin, and text. I pick up the Faces folder and all the results where the possible faces were detected are shown. I switch to the next Guns subnode. Here it is. Then Pornography subfolder. And here is the potential abusing pictures that are blurred. I am opening one of the pictures and it is detected as pornographic. After that, I can also scan the skin subfolder for the files that were detected with the skin. And the last one is the text subfolder. This was not originally a child abusing materials case, so the incident response team didn't use that feature. However, the Belkasoft product can also find matches of files hash values with previously known hashes from a hash list. Belkasoft offers you such options as Project VIC hashsets, NSRL, as well as plain text files with one hash a line. The latter option is handy if you are creating your own hash set. It is as easy as putting all your hash values on a separate line. Doesn't matter if it is an MD5 or SHA1 or a mixture of hashes calculated using different hash algorithms. By the way, the product also allows you to export selected files hash values into formats such as Project VIC, so you can use such hash sets in your future investigations. I'm selecting several pictures with detected text, and now I'm going to create a report. I can select a target format, and there are Project VIC versions 1.3 and 2.0. For now, I interrupt the report creation and we move to dashboard. I select to add a new data source. Then I'm instructing Belka X to add a folder. There is a long list of artifacts and file formats which can be customized by your needs. On the next step, you can choose to calculate files hashes values with algorithms like SHA1, SHA256, and MD5. You can also check boxes next to NSRL and Project VIC samples. You can also add the other hashset databases options. The supported files also include standard and widely used TXT, CSV, and JSON. The next step is to choose the media analysis and classify pictures by faces, guns, pornography, skin, and text. The list of languages which can be detected is quite long, but you might need to install your preferred language separately. For example, Chinese simplified, traditional, and so on. In Belka X, the option to extract keyframe as pictures from videos is available. So, as I've already shown during the demo, there are also some additional video forensics features like video keyframe extraction, multiple video streams detection. Though it was not used from the beginning, Belkasoft can analyze memory dumps for interesting artifacts and malware. Particularly, you can extract memory processes, save selected processes to a file for the sake of disassembling, and also to analyze them using virus total integration. There is a function to cover various memory artifacts, including Tor, darknet, links, and various info which is not stored on a hard drive. In the described case, the computer in question didn't have an internet connection. However, if it had, it could have made sense to analyze remote session traces. In Belkasoft X, it can be done via Incident Investigations window under a dedicated Remote Connections node. This node contains interesting details including IP addresses and connection time. Okay, switch back to Belka X. In the Incident Investigation section, I find Remote Connections node, and we can see there the outgoing RDP connections subnode. Here we can see the target computer IP addresses. Now, when the investigation changed its status and main focus, another set of methods was involved. First of all, when the illicit content appeared on the computer. Using the file system window, it was determined that one of NTFS partitions contained several volume shadow copies. The volume shadow copy is a technology provided by Microsoft in order to create backup copies of files and volumes. Such copies are called snapshots, and they may contain a full volume copy or just a difference made after a certain time. It appeared that one of the previous shadow copies didn't contain the folder with child abusing materials. Using snapshot properties, it is possible to see what was the snapshot creation. Creation time. Having two dates of the snapshot without the folder and with the folder, it is possible to narrow the date of copying or downloading child abusing materials to the computer. I mentioned downloading the files, but you remember that the computer didn't have an internet connection. How child abusing material appeared there? Was it copied from an external hard drive or from the local network? Or maybe a mobile internet was used? That's another story. Having the time period, investigators were able to use other ways to find out needed evidence. It was not disclosed which ones, but I can guess watching office CCTV recordings, checking various access journals, including automated door access control service, and so on. And that's how the timeline functionality is presented in Belka X. So I'm selecting a certain period of time on the timeline. So we can move it here and there. Okay. And I can switch to the grid view and review all the events and artifacts created during this time period. We can filter out the events. We can also choose a certain type of events that we want to be visible in the results table. For example, computer shutdown option. The other options include emails received, geo bookmarks created, and others. Let me tell you about some other potentially useful functions of Belkasoft X, which, though not used in this case, might be important in similar investigations. First is triage analysis and triage customization. Triage has become an increasingly important part of digital forensics, and it is the process that aims to identify the most relevant data as quickly as possible. The purpose is to manage situations where one has a finite amount of time and resources to carry out an investigation. So you can use this functionality in Belka X. The next irreplaceable and widely used technique in Belka X is file and data carving. By using carving, we essentially perform a low-level scan of the media for various artifacts, looking for signatures, specific sequences of bytes, characteristic of this or that type of data. This also means that carving disregards files themselves in performing the byte sequence search, thus becoming extremely helpful in cases where data has been corrupted or deleted. Carving helps in finding hidden, renamed, or relocated data, for example, images inserted into an Microsoft Word document or scripts injected into a PDF file would not be visible in the file system. However, we would be able to find them using carving in Belkasoft X. Another important implication of carving is searching for data inside slack space and unallocated space. Belka X supports comprehensive analysis and visualization of SQLite databases. SQLite databases are very important in a course of digital forensic investigation because it is a very popular format for storing data. Thousands of different desktop applications chose SQLite. SQLite is a standard de facto for storing data in mobile applications. Belka X doesn't use any third-party SQLite libraries, enabling fully native SQLite parsing. This feature allows users to parse even badly damaged, fragmented, and incomplete databases, such as those resulting from a carving attempt. Belkasoft X is developed to analyze videos and pictures. The tool is able to detect all kinds of pornographic and child abusive materials automatically. The product can help examiners to decrease time for video files analysis, as it can extract keyframes or key images, so they get only the most meaningful and useful data and do not need to watch all the video, especially if it is some pornographic or child abusive materials. One more feature available in Belka X is automatic multiple video streams detection in video files. In a digital forensic case, multiple video streams in the same video file may mean a situation when a child abusive content is hidden. That is why it is vital to have a quick way to distinguish and analyze such files by means of Belkasoft X. And concluding my presentation, I'd like to remind you also about the other important Belka X capabilities, which can be very useful in your investigations. Belka X is developed to acquire and analyze a wide range of iOS and Android devices. The product helps examiners to acquire and analyze all kinds of operating systems and cloud services. And there are more advanced techniques available in the product, like link analysis with communities detection, whole disk decryption and file decryption, key dictionary generation. If you are interested in testing the new Belkasoft X by yourself, don't hesitate to request it on our website. If you are our existing customer with the Belkasoft X license, you can upgrade to the current version from the previous Belka X versions for free. Customers without a contract can purchase Belkasoft X from the customer portal. If you need training, we provide an affordable training with optional certification. The list of available training formats is available on the slide. Don't hesitate to ask us if you need more information about it. And one more time, support Belkasoft's efforts in creating and improving the Belkasoft X product by nominating us in the following categories: Commercial Tool of the Year and Team of the Year. So thank you for listening to the webinar, and if you have any questions, please type it in chat.